Good morning, everyone. I'm excited to have you all here this morning once again. So this is the fifth and last Adventure Tourism Uganda webinar. Some of you are watching this live with us this morning, but there's also a few people who will watch this recording back later on, as we're also sharing this on YouTube and on our own Adventure Tourism Uganda websites. So I'm quite happy to host this session today. So over the past month, we've been hosting a series of webinars on mostly thematic areas of adventure tourism. So we've been talking about the potential of adventure tourism in Uganda at large. We've been focusing on cultural tourism. We've been focusing on cycling. We discussed hiking, different parts of adventure tourism. And now this session is a last webinar, and it also marks the end of the Adventure Tourism Uganda project, or at least in its current form. Yeah, I'm excited to host this today because I will be the host, but there is also going to be 3 guest appearances. Yeah, so all of these 3 people are also going to focus on the topics of today: product development, quality assurance, and business collaboration. So I think that would be a nice way to end these webinars, as I think that these are business aspects that any tourism business runs into or needs to take care of. For those of you that don't know me, my name is Alexander Bongers. I'm the coordinator of Adventure Tourism Uganda, and today, as well as in all the other webinars, I'm supported by my 2 colleagues, Priscilla and Maureen. And just a quick reminder of practicalities. This will be a semi-interactive session, in that sense that there will be time that you can ask questions and all that, either muted or unmuted. But for the majority of this session, we ask you to keep your microphones muted, so to keep it a bit orderly. And again, please note that this webinar will be recorded and also be shared online. So that also means that if you find this interesting, and in case you would like to share it with your colleagues or any other person, then please do so, because we believe it could be helpful. And also, if you're interested in any of the other webinars, you can find them all online. So just a small introduction of Adventure Tourism Uganda. So Adventure Tourism Uganda is a consortium of tourism companies that jointly want to professionalize the adventure tourism sector in Uganda. And they do so by investing jointly in product development, capacity building, and marketing. And this consortium is supported by the Netherlands Enterprise Agency. And this program runs from 2020 to 2023. So as I said, it's going to stop by the end of this year, or at least in its current form. So here's an overview of some of the tourism companies that are part of this consortium. But the idea is that all the activities under this program are beneficial to the tourism companies in Uganda at large. So that is also one of the reasons why these webinars are accessible to anyone. So let me see. So at this moment we have 14 people that are participating in this webinar so far, and I expect a few more. But I would like to ask all of you to just introduce yourself in the chat, and then I'll read them out loud. Well, of course, Richard and David and Sophie will also get the chance to introduce themselves properly. But I'm just curious, who is in this room? Where are you based? What is the type of organization or company that you work for? And then, well, we can maybe also adjust the content a bit to your interests. So I'm just waiting for a few responses in the chat. So far, I don't see any responses yet, but please do so. Well, while I'm waiting for some responses, let me also mention that this is going to be a 2-hour session, or roughly 2 hours. There will also be chances for you to interact with the guest facilitators. So if you have any questions, please also let us know, and you can do so via the chat. Let me see. So Frank, my good friend Frank, is here. Frank tours Uganda, and he is also a board member of USAGA. Good to have you here, Frank. Charlotte is there. Charlotte is, she's one of the, well, in my opinion, one of the best content creators for the tourism industry in Uganda. I've had the chance to work with her numbers of times, and I always like to do that. So good morning, Charlotte. Also, Nicholas is here. It is a name that I don't recognize. So Nicholas, if you could also tell us in the chat who you are. Oh, team leader at Uganda Waka. So if you could maybe also elaborate a little bit on what Uganda Waka is, that would be great. But great to have you here. And also Jasmijn Appels is here, the program advisor for the Netherlands Enterprise Agency. So it's great to have you here as well, Jasmijn. Let me move on and just read out whenever I see anything else in the chat. Okay, so today we are going to have 3 guest appearances. Richard Okuti of Asili FORTUNE, and he will be talking about business collaborations and how tourism companies can work together with each other, but also with local governments, with associations, with DMOs, in well, further building their business, but also building the sector at large. So there is also David. David is the founder and CEO of Tripesa, which is a platform for Ugandan tourism activity providers to sell their activities and to showcase it, to market it. And Tripesa is a company that we've been working with in the past in various occasions. And David is also one of the facilitators with whom I have led a product development training. So that's why I invited David again. And there's also Sophie. Sophie is the Senior Product Development Officer at UTB, and today she's going to talk a bit about quality assurance and licensing. So great that all of you will be here. So also to all of you, if you have any questions on any of the topics that you see here. So product development, quality assurance, collaborations, destination development, but maybe also entrepreneurship or adventure tourism at large, or any other topic that you believe we could help you with. Well, I know all of the all of these three people that are joining us here today, and I know they all have quite a bit of expertise on several of these topics. So I welcome you to just ask any questions, and you can do so via the chat. So instead of just unmuting your mic, I would like to ask you to just use the chat for it. But honestly, I do think this is a great venue to ask those type of questions. And so Nicholas is elaborating on what Uganda Waka is. So we are a destination marketing agency showcasing Uganda's tourism potential, taking pride in Uganda. Well, that's great. Nice to meet you then, Nicholas. I'm going to invite David to share some of his experiences on product development. But before I do so, I would like to first maybe introduce the topic of product development by giving some of the tips that I've come up with myself, and maybe that could also be a way for David to start his story later on. So so as I said, I've given quite some trainings on product development, and I like traveling myself, and I've been all over Uganda, and I think there's common types of challenges that activity providers or adventure tourism companies at large run into when it comes to product development. So I just came up with 8 tips. As I see, I wrote down 10, but there are supposed to be 8. So let me just introduce them. So what I always encourage any tourism company to do is to create as many, let's say, feedback loops or feedback opportunities as possible. And not only, well, feedback implies that you would do it after an activity, but I think it would be worthwhile for any tourism company to have interactions with potential customers as much as possible. So not only after an activity, but also prior to it. And I think many tourists would love to give their opinion on things. So if you have a good idea, you can, well, of course, just pilot it and ask for feedback, but you can also invite potential clients to come up with those products yourself. And I really believe that could be of added value. In the tourism business, unfortunately, there's a lot of copying from other, from neighbors and other tourism companies in Uganda. But I would say if you want to copycat from anyone, do it from someone at the other side of the globe. Or, well, let's say getting inspiration. There's plenty of adventure tourism activities that are relatively new to Uganda, and if you want to develop activities around it, I think just making use of internet is actually the best thing to do. So, for example, trail running has great potential in many areas in Uganda. So, trail running would be running over those unpaved trails like Panya routes, and trail running is really becoming more and more popular in many countries around the world. And there are some some tourism companies in Uganda that focus on trail running, but it's still in its infancy. And often it's mostly event-based. But I do think if you, let's say, want to develop a trail running activity, you can also just search for inspiration with the use of, let's say, YouTube or other internet platforms. Consider your added value, because as an adventure tourism company, you're not only competing with other adventure tourism companies, but let's say you're offering cycling tours. Many of your clients might also think like, okay, so why wouldn't I just start cycling myself? Why would I need a guide? Why would I have to pay a tourism business? Of course, with, let's say, rafting or mountain climbing, it might be not as simple or straightforward, but like then it would be obvious that that you would need a tourism company to help out. But especially on cycling and hiking and those type of activities, there really needs to be an added value for tourism companies to be profitable. Also, consider combining adventure tourism activities with cultural tourism activities. So especially when we're talking of hiking or cycling, or those types of activities can easily be combined with, for example, a culinary tour or a cultural group performance. And because there's few tourists that would there's few international tourists that would just come to Uganda to only do adventure tourism activities or only do cultural tourism activities. But you can easily combine those with each other, but also maybe combine it with, let's say, safari-based tourism. But so you could combine them in one itinerary, but often it's also worthwhile exploring whether you can combine it within the same actual product or activity. Add-ons, so extra options on top of the basic package are often a great way to just generate more profit. And especially in adventure tourism, it is quite easy to come up with optional things that people would be interested in paying for, such as, for example, more luxurious modes of transport, but also, for example, content creation. For example, what you often see around the world is if you would do like diving from an airplane, like with parachutes or skydiving, there's this option of also having a second person jumping with you, but then making a video of you, and you would have to pay like, well, what is it, $100 extra. But these type of things can also be done in other forms of adventure tourism. And adventure tourism often, especially if it requires a lot of materials to be used, it can be quite expensive, and many tourists wouldn't be willing to pay for that full package all every time. But you can also make those things optional. A sixth tip: collaborate with companies in other places in developing one product. So I think I mentioned this in the cycling webinar before. I always wonder, like, why don't the lodges in, let's say, Kasese work together with lodges in Fort Portal and create one cycling activity where tourists can just go from a cycle from Fort Portal to Kasese? Would be a wonderful ride, and then accommodation is provided at both of those places, and the bicycles will be transported the day after. Those types of collaborations, but of companies in different towns or regions, but also different types of companies collaborating. I think that type of collaboration is sort of rare to find in the Uganda tourism industry, and I really think that there's potential for doing so. And then if you do this collaboration, and I think Richard is also going to share something on this later. If you want to make sure that you can collaborate with other tourism companies, what is it that they are looking for? It's that quality assurance. So they need to know that any tourist that will book an activity with you will receive the same amount of quality as was offered the day before. So if you can offer this consistent level of quality, that is really the thing that tourism companies are looking for, because in a way that's just what reliability is about. And also for customers, if they want to book an adventure tourism activity, of course, many adventure tourism activities include some form of risk or at least some specific skills or expertise from a guide, for example. So that is why professionalism and trustworthiness and maybe also safety is what those customers are looking for. Like, they want to go on this adventure, but they do want to know that it's going to be safe and that this company offering it is professional. And the first place to show this professionalism and trustworthiness is in marketing and communication. So make sure that already your website and your social media and how you communicate with clients is already professional, because that is an indicator of professionalism during the trip itself. Anyway, these are 8 of the tips that I want to share with you. I would like now to invite David to share some of his experiences with us. And so, David, good to have you here. And I would like to start off with just asking you a simple question. How can tourism businesses turn a good idea into a great product?
Thank you very much for having me. Can you hear me clearly?
Yes, we can.
Yeah. So first of all, my name is David Gonahasa. I'm the founder of Tripesa. It was interesting hearing Lex trying to explain what we do. It was did a fairly bad job at it. Tripesa is an automation tool for the tourism industry. We help small businesses build no-code websites, accept payments, and run your businesses digitally. We know that many small companies today struggle with, how do you build a website? It's too expensive to build, and all these challenges. And what we're saying is that, you don't need to worry about all those things, because you can do it yourself. You can actually build your own website. You can manage it. It's been about a year, 2 years building this out. So we've gone from very rudimentary, basic interfaces to, much better feature-rich interfaces. We're very proud of what we've been able to build. And we're hoping that over the next few years, we'll help thousands and thousands of small companies get online and sell. Funny thing is also we're plugging into the bigger companies and larger hotels through proximity booking tools and things to get the whole sector working together. So glad to be speaking about this and an area that I am very passionate about, because I think at the core, unless we can diversify the product offering of the Ugandan market or many other African markets, we will be stuck with the same numbers we've had for a very long time. And also it limits the opportunity, because many of the operators that we have today are selling the very same product. So how do you differentiate yourself? So how do you turn a good idea into a great product? Package it. Simple as that. The most basic ideas that you have, and I like to use examples. So yes, there's been cycling in Karamoja for a very long time. But when the team at Karatunga went and called it the Tour of Karamoja, and they added a number of things to make sure the experience was seamless, they were then able to create a great product. So what are the things to consider when you're doing your packaging? One, of course, is who are you selling to? So I always like to say, be very clear about who your customer is. So you've defined your attraction very well. So you know that we're selling trail running, like say it, or we're selling, I don't know, Kampala hiking tours, whatever you want to call it. Okay, so you have the attraction. The next thing you want to know is who exactly is going to buy this attraction. Who is the customer I'm speaking to? Who are they? What are their motivations? Why would they buy it? Why would they choose you? Then based on that, the next bit is packaging. And packaging, I think Lex and I did this training where we recently called the IDA model. So awareness, interest, desire, and action. And as you're doing your packaging, the first thing you want to do is have a very catchy name for it, something that stands out, something that somebody easily remembers. After that, go on to explain descriptively and clearly, this is what you're going to expect to have, because the reason to purchase normally is based on expectation. Okay, so I expect to have A, B, C, D, E. So maybe have a chance to cycle in the wilderness of Karamoja, meet with the tribes, the buffalo, whatever it is, explain it very well. And then price it very well. So normally there's a challenge with pricing where pricing is, I think, let's say this is based normally on benchmark. So you say that my activity is going to cost $100 because the neighbor also prices his that way. So get the pricing right. Pricing is normally a factor of cost. How much does it cost you to deliver the product to the customer, and what is your percentage of profit thereafter? Okay, so if you know that you're going to have to hire a bicycle at X amount of money, you know that the guide is going to cost Y. This is the price if you're 1, this is the price if you're 10. So you get the pricing right. And then lastly, ensure you deliver a good experience, because great products always live up to the experience that they promise. I can tell you that we've struggled with this even as a company, because you promise somebody something and sometimes it's not exactly what should be expected. So you need, as a business, to just work as hard as possible to ensure that you can consistently give the customer the same experience that they expect. A few other things to consider when you are, sort of ensuring you have a great product is consider things like how accessible is it? How do you sell it? Because the product must pay for itself. So how do you create visibility? How do people find you? How do they find the product? And lastly, I think great products are able to generate consistent revenue. So for example, aside from the core product itself, so for example, you're doing a hiking tour, how do you make some more money off it? So do you upsell drinks? Do you upsell additional experiences? How do you make sure the product is generating revenue? So at the core, a good idea is good because you have it. A great product is sustainable. A great product generates revenue. A great product is able to pay for its costs. And it comes down to packaging, selling, and generating revenue.
Thanks, David. So, I think you already included some answers to the following question already a bit in your answer. But I'm wondering if you can dive a little bit more into the commercial aspect of the commercial challenges that many especially smaller tourism companies run into. What do you think are the decisive factors for becoming a commercial success?
Again, I like the word commercial success. I like the word profitability even better, because commercial success basically means that you are making money. It comes down to one thing. Profitability is about cost and return. Okay, so how do you make sure that you manage, initially at the very base level, manage your costs? So very clearly track what you're spending on putting a product out there. Many times we forget about the cost of doing business. So you think because I've built a lodge or I bought the bicycles and they're running, everything is my profit. And what you forget is that there's a cost of running those bicycles every day, because you have to service them, you have to fix them. You have the guides, you have to store them somewhere. So you think that because someone's paying you, let's say, again, I'm using cycling as an example here, because someone is paying you, let's say, 50,000 shillings, okay, to go on a cycling tour. And let's say you're selling your product as an upsell. So you are in Windy, in the gorilla area. And what you're saying is that after you go on a tour, you can come, after you go gorilla trekking, you can come and use my bicycles to do an adventure through the hills. Again, great sounding idea. You spend, $5,000 buying a number of bicycles, and people come and ride these bicycles every day, right? So what you're counting is that every day I'm making money because someone is paying you 50,000 shillings. But you're forgetting that every day you actually are spending money because you store this bicycle somewhere. You have to service them regularly. You have to do a number of things. Now, if you cannot calculate that cost very well, a few months or years down the road, your business will fail because you're not actually covering the cost area. So that's the first space that you need to really be cognizant of. What does it cost you to provide this product to the market? Now, the next thing on the revenue side is how do you sell it? And you need to have what you call a very clear channel strategy. So my product is hiking, or it's cycling, or it's jumping off hills, whatever it is. How do you make this accessible to the people around you or the customers you're targeting? And one of the biggest mistakes people make is very quickly assuming that your best customers are in the diaspora or wherever it is. So you go build a nice website and you assume they'll come. So you have a bit of Facebook, you go into expos, but you'll find that in reality, your customers are upsell customers who have already come for something. Now, it's important to define your product clearly. Are you a flagship? Are you an ancillary product? So if you're building a product, an adventure product in, say, an area with a very strong flagship product, and a flagship product is like a very strong, well-known activity or product. So for example, gorilla trekking. So if you're building an activity product in Buindi, for example, I know that Buindi has a number of beautiful rivers, and we've actually spoken about doing tubing or rafting on some of those rivers. If you're doing that, your first sales target is the customers who are already coming in and staying in the lodges. So before you start thinking about building your own site, because it's too far from Kampala, so it only makes sense for you to tap into already existing channels. So that's the first thing. So clearly define your channels. Who is your customer? How do you get to them? And that's super, super important. The other thing around commercial successes is in your ability to squeeze as much revenue out of an activity or out of a customer, okay? And again, something many times we ignore. So you'll find somebody saying that, and I've had this before from some guys. He'll say that, oh yeah, so we'll drive our guests from Entebbe Airport and we'll stop at the Equator where they'll have lunch, and then we'll drive them on to the next stop where they'll do this, and then the last stop where they'll have the activity and sleep. And then, so you find that the only revenue you're generating is this, $80 a day or whatever it is that you're charging for your car. But in reality, you're creating revenue at multiple points. Have you gone and negotiated with all the restaurants, all the stops? I will bring customers here and you will pay me 10% of whatever it is that they're spending. And that's not cheating, that's not corruption, that's just pure business, because it's not even a kickback. It's what do you call it? It's commission on sales. And this has been done very effectively in some of the large tourism markets. When you go to Egypt, for example, for those of you you realize when you go to the pyramids, this guy is going to tell you, I'm going to take you to best perfume store. And you say yes, and he takes you to a place, and you sit there for some hours and you spend money, or some minutes spend money. I'll take you to the best papyrus store, best place. And these guys have learned to sell, right? So what you need to do is ask yourself along this spending journey, along this value creation process, at how many points can I generate some income? So back to the question.
David, may I ask, is it correct that it hasn't been done at all in Uganda so far? Or
I think some people are doing it. Some people are doing it. I cannot speak for everyone, but the many I've seen, our culture states that we should be very hospitable and nice. So we take you to a place and say, oh, please enjoy, and then you leave. Okay. I mean, to be honest, I think that anybody taking anyone to, let's say, any activity that is not core to your business, you should be making some money off it. And it's just you pre-negotiate. Don't do it when you get there, do it before. So, this is my trail, that's how it works. So back to adventure tourism. How many upsell opportunities do you have to it's sort of like revenue assurance. How do you generate more revenue from your customers? Number one, like I said, I think Lex mentioned it. If you're doing an adventure activity, can you add some other additional experiences run by third parties that you can generate some additional income from as a commission? Can you do things like drinks? Can you do, what else can you do? So for example, t-shirts. If you're doing this, good activity, sell them a t-shirt when they come as a souvenir, which they sell. Create your own souvenir options. Photography. I think the people doing the rafting do this great. They'll have a photographer take the pictures anyway, and at the end of the experience, then I'll say, do you want to buy your pictures? They cost you only so much money. It really costs you very little to execute. So yeah, so commercial successes manage costs, manage channels, and manage income, and assure revenue increments on activity.
And so sometimes you see this reflex that if if companies are not really profitable because they're making too much costs, then what they do is just increase the price. But then they are sort of outcompeting themselves because then it's not really worth it for the customer anymore. But sometimes I'm wondering, like, is it not just a matter of making sure that, let's say, your fixed costs are becoming more variable? So instead of owning this and always paying this to that, like maybe there's also creative ways around it, isn't it?
I mean, we've all had the story of Uber is the biggest taxi company and they own no cars. I personally hate fixed costs. I'm sure you guys have done, financial trainings. Fixed costs are sort of fixed amounts of money you must spend regularly to run your business. And if you can avoid fixed costs as much as possible, that's a great thing. So for like, let's say if you're doing, again, cycling, do you have to own the bikes? Can you rent the bikes whenever someone comes in? Because then you're eliminating the cost of ownership. You're reducing that cost because then you're making your core tool, a variable cost. So you only pay for the bike when you get it. And it's something that we say in Uganda a lot is that you make the most money if you own the thing. And that's not actually true because I think some of the largest tour operators in this country don't own any lodges. And so I agree with you absolutely. Try to avoid fixed costs as much as possible because they make it, also it helps you sort of scale your growth. Okay. Because you don't have to invest $5,000 to start. You can actually start with 100 and just focus that 100 on marketing or selling, and then keep growing as you increase usage of the product.
No. And so also one thing I wanted to ask you had to do with mistakes and business failures. And I was wondering, like, how can entrepreneurs learn from those things that haven't worked out? And the reason why I'm asking this is also because I know a little bit about your background. Like we've worked together before, and I know, for example, you once started a company called Round Bob, and there's also a company about the gorillas. And maybe you can explain a little bit about like how you learned from things that weren't as successful as you hoped, and how did you learn from it?
I think failure is the best teacher that you can have. Failure teaches you what not to do. So I like to say that sometimes I do not know what to do, but I know what not to do, and that's super important as a business owner. My company Roundbob was a bit unfortunate because it was partly COVID related, but also internal management issues because we had a lot of fraud in the business. So we were running this thing where we had something called a travel wallet or travel savings. And what this was people would put money aside to buy, and internally the staff were taking this money and spending it and running in-house sponsors and things. And we had to pay so much money eventually. But what we learned, and I think these are some of the mistakes that we make as tourists in businesses, we lose money through poor management of our businesses. Companies are very hands-on for you to run. So for example, I've seen people build lodges in this country and you work in Kampala. So there's actually a story of two lodges. I won't name them. They're very close to each other. I can tell you the area. They're in Kaseni, in Queen Elizabeth National Park. And there's two lodges with almost a similar name. One of the lodges is run by this American guy who lives at the lodge for almost 6 months of the year. The other lodge is run by a banker who lives in Kampala, who is there, once every other day. And they're two different stories. You need to be involved with your business. You need to actively run your business, which means manage your costs, manage operations, manage your staff. And that's one of the mistakes we make. So you start a business and say, yeah, I'm opening up this adventure thing, I'm opening up that, but you're not there. So you just let other people run it. And before a company finds its legs, you normally will struggle with that. The next mistake that I've seen is that we delegate our sales and marketing process to other people. So yes, if you're a large company, you have people who you're paying lots of money to come in and run these things. But when you're a small company, your main role is to sell. Your main role is to find customers. If you can't find customers, you're going to die. You may be the best cycling trainer, hiking trainer, whatever it is out there, or guide. But if you're not getting customers, you're not making money. So you go and find people paying money to third parties. Yeah, help me get customers, help me get customers. You normally will fail. The other mistake I see many, many businesses do in this country is you spend too much on the wrong thing. So you find that you're traveling to all these international expos and all these things. And in reality, you find that you're not probably getting as much value for what you spend. Marketing is an investment, and you should always calculate the return on the investment. When you spend money, you need to be able to say that I spent $1,000 last year on this activity and I made back 10,000. So normally it's a 1 to 4 calculation. Okay. So before you go to all these events and expos, is there a smarter way to acquire customers? And that's always super important for you to consider. Like I said, if you're an activity provider, consider upselling as opposed to, trying to create your own customers. Okay. Think about it. How many customers are around you that you're able to actually be able to reach out to and start with? Okay. So that's a good place for you to start. A few other mistakes aside from management, sales, and marketing. I think those are the ones that really come to mind straight at this point. It's one, how do you run your business? So in terms of what does it cost to run? Do you manage that effectively? How do you acquire customers? Do you manage effectively? Oh yeah, there's one other mistake that we make. We normally forget that the best customer you can have is a customer that returns. So when a customer has a problem, we're very quick to blame everyone else and the customer as opposed to actually taking in the customer's feedback and challenges and trying to fix them. Whenever a customer complains about something, actually, I like to tell my team, I like customers who complain. Customers who complain care about you a bit. Customers who don't complain are the worst because they will leave and never come back and tell everybody you're bad. A customer who complains is telling you, if you fix this, I might want to come back. And so you need to be able to speak to them, understand their issues, see how to resolve the challenges. I've heard of customers who've had very bad horror stories with tour operators, but because the operator just kept being very proactive and communicating and talking to them constantly, they are now best of friends and they keep referring people because of that. So a bad customer experience does not mean that you're a bad business, but how you deal with it, is really what changes things. So I've covered a couple of mistakes.
Yeah. Well, for those years that I've known you, I always really like how you can sort of put the finger at the right place of explaining how mistakes are being made and how you can learn from it. So that's why I included this question. So thank you so much for that, David. And maybe as a last question, just a simple question. What is Tripesa, and how can anybody in this webinar, but also any adventure tourism company at large, benefit from it? How can you work together?
I always like the chance to plug my business, so I will happily go for it.
I know.
So I want to give you a scenario. So you're a small company starting, some tours. So you have 3 products you want to sell. You must build digital presence. So the assumption is that you're going to go and build Facebook, Twitter, whatever it is, social media channels, but you need to have your own space. So you're going to go and spend $1 million shillings building a website, and then you pay for hosting, and then you start to figure out every other day you're pulling up what do you call it, your developer, please help me fix this, please help me fix that. What if you could do this yourself? What if you could build your website yourself? Super simple, update it regularly yourself, create booking links for your customers, have payments embedded, payments are settled to your bank account or wherever it is you want the payments to go to. What Tripesa does, or what we're trying to do, is can we eliminate the technology limitation for small businesses? So build what you call no-code tools. It's like, Shopify for tourism, build no-code tools. Next, can I share my screen and just show one little thing?
Yeah, but videos won't really work.
No, not
So
a
I don't know.
video. I'm not showing you a video. I'm showing
Okay. Yeah.
you,
Yeah.
I want
You
to show
can.
you just two quick things. I think that's the best way I can actually showcase what we do.
Yes, please. I think you can. I think I made you co-host.
Yes, I think
Yeah.
I can share it
Okay.
now. So I
Okay.
want to just show you an example. This is a no-code website that's been built for one of our customers. And this is a larger customer. So imagine something like this. It's been built based on, global best practices. You have blogs, you have the packages, you have categorization. So within that, you're able to find specific packages you can buy. Something like this is probably going to cost you tens of thousands of dollars. With Tripesa, this is pretty low in terms of what it costs you. And this is just one example. I want to show you one other. This is another example. This is one of my favorite companies. Like, the story of this guy. What's interesting about this
Yes.
guy is he came as a support guide for one of the people in the training, and we said we love what he's doing and we would support him. And he's built this, and he's gone from making about $200 a month or something like that to sometimes doing up to $5,000, because now he has bookable inventory. And guess what? He manages this himself. And to be honest, Shakul, for those who know him, is not the most land person, but what he's learned how to do is manage it himself. Sitoshi also runs on Tripesa and many other small. So this is all no code. This is something you manage yourself. This is something you build yourself. And you also get your own backend dashboard. So you can create itineraries, you can create proposals for clients. There's a lot that you can do with Tripesa. And what we're trying to do, I'm going to show this to you very quickly. What we're trying to do is allow everybody to take charge of their digital presence. You don't need to rely on anyone to do it for you. And I don't want to bore you very much more with this, but if you would like to, please, get in touch. We'd be happy to share with you. We're doing a few fun projects for the next few years. So as we've kept building the product, it's getting better and better. We're building a marketplace with Uganda Kingdom. And what would be interesting, probably, Lex, is we could have a conversation around building a marketplace with Adventure Tourism Uganda. So we actually have one place where all these products can be and people can buy them. So I guess the leaders in the room, we would be happy to engage and have this conversation.
Yeah. Thanks. Sounds cool.
So someone asked about the price. So for 1 year on Tripesa is $180. That's for the basic version. So it's about $15 a month, and that gives you a basic site. The basic sites are better than many of the things that people have right now, and more complex platforms like Watch for Vast Safari is about slightly more expensive. But yeah, we can always discuss that based on the need. So we don't build this. We've built the core of the platform. We simply do a front-end interface, and that's as easy as it is.
Cool. Maybe David, maybe you can also share your contact details in the chat, or share where people can find Tripesa in case they're interested.
I have put my my email address and phone number in the chat, and I'm happy to take hold myself.
Perfect. Thanks. So also just a reminder to everyone present, in case there's any specific questions that you have for David, also just on the content side of his presentation, feel free to share it again in the chat, and we will give it attention in this webinar. But thank you so much, David, and I'm really happy to see that Shakul is now becoming a businessman. I really like that. Thanks again, David,
I have
for
to
your.
leave you now, as I told you earlier. So I hope there was, maybe if there's any one quick question I could probably respond to before I head out.
Yeah. Let's yeah. Either way, either you can just stay there for a few minutes more, or you can have.
Okay.
Cool. But thank you so much, David.
Thanks a lot.
Um, David mentioned that he had that he had a child that he was a bit ill, so that's why he had to leave. I see that Richard has raised his hand. Richard.
Sorry, I just wanted to say that very nice what Tripesa is doing, and I'd like to reach him to collaborate as soon as possible. So I want him to have that in mind as well, but I think he's already gone, probably.
No, Richard, I'm still here. You and I are brothers. I'll find you. Don't worry.
Yes, David, we need to talk.
All right.
Okay,
Okay,
thank you.
I really have to leave now. Okay, bye.
Cool. Okay, so I just wanted to still add a little bit on pricing myself to his presentation, as I wasn't 100% sure whether David would discuss pricing in his talks. But I also had some thoughts myself on pricing and how can you establish a good price for your activity. And my first recommendation would be to consider various ways of calculating your price, and to choose which is the most profitable for you. So often tourism businesses would focus on what is called the cost plus method. So what they do is quite simple. They calculate all the costs that they're making, and they add maybe, let's say, 10% on top, because they believe like this 10% is what I'm going to earn from it, and that is going to be the price. But there's also an alternative way of coming up with your prices. It's called the value-based pricing method. And that is quite simple. You just ask your potential customers, well, this is the type of activity that I want to offer. How much would you pay for it? And then you can just calculate what the price is that most people would want to pay for it, and then you can just come up with the price that is most profitable. And sometimes you may find that the costs that you are making are, let's say, $10 per activity if one person would buy it, and then you would maybe sell it for, let's say, $15, and then that $5 is your margin. But maybe if you would just ask people what they would be willing to pay for it, maybe somebody would be willing to pay $20 for it, and then instead of just having that $5 of margins, your margin would be $10. So it would be interesting to just move from that side to the other side and see if that is more profitable. But you can also do it the other way around. You can also, like, sometimes you also see that the tourism companies just set a specific price for their activity, because they know that many tourists would want to pay this amount, and they know that maybe their competitors are also selling this activity for a comparable price. But you can also decide then to look at your costs and see if you decide to reduce your margin and just say like, well, these are the costs, and that is the amount that I definitely have to get out of it, and I just want to have maybe 10% on top. Maybe the price will significantly drop, and you might outcompete your competitors by doing so. And then maybe your margin per customer might be lower, but the fact that you're far cheaper than your competitors may result in customers preferring you all the time. So that tip of just considering both this cost plus method as well as value-based pricing method can be rewarding. And also what I believe is that sometimes if customers find something too expensive, then being a bit transparent on how the pricing mechanism worked and how you ended up with asking this price may actually persuade customers from still buying it. So for example, renting a mountain bike in Uganda is very expensive. More expensive than you would pay in most other countries. And I remember when I first moved to Uganda, I felt like, wow, why is it so expensive? Like if I just rent it maybe 6 or 7 times, it is actually cheaper to just buy a secondhand mountain bike myself. So why is it that expensive? And then when I found out about how expensive maintaining good quality mountain bikes is in Uganda, that is when I came to realize, like, oh, okay, wait a minute. So the pricing method is actually quite fair, but it just has to do with the maintenance cost. So sometimes being transparent about it can help to persuade customers. And well, I think this third point, I touched upon it already. Consider maintenance costs, because well, in Uganda, in general, compared to, for example, the Netherlands, where I come from, labor is very cheap in Uganda, but material costs are expensive. So maintenance costs are very expensive, whereas in my country, it's the other way around. And if you don't really consider those maintenance costs in your pricing model, it might end up in you just ignoring the maintenance of your bicycles or your cars or whatever materials you are using, and that then harms the quality assurance. Also consider giving group discounts because they can be very profitable, especially when your variable costs are low. So variable costs are the additional costs that you are making for every extra product that you're selling. So, for example, a guided hike or a guided trail run activity, it doesn't really cost you as an entrepreneur much when somebody else is joining as well. Maybe it costs a little bit more in terms of lunch, and maybe you have to get extra transport. But generally, it's not that much. So you can also decide, like, well, the first person is going to pay quite a bit for it, but the second person is already paying less, and everybody on top is paying quite a low price. Those types of mechanisms can also be worthwhile. So I just wanted to share this with you. I would now like to. Oh yeah, and again, also if you have any questions about this or anything that you would like to have feedback on, please feel free to use the chat for it, and I will get back to it later. But I would now like to invite Sophie, Sophie, good to have you here. And first of all, I would also like to know how I actually pronounce your name. So there's a reason why I didn't pronounce it yet, because to me, it's for me as a Dutch person, it would be quite difficult to pronounce your full name. But please introduce yourself a bit more. And so Sophie is going to introduce the topic of quality assurance and licensing from a UTB perspective. So Sophie, let me know, are you here? And well, please take the floor.
All right, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Good morning. My name is Sophie Baliijuka Kayongo. I work with the Uganda Tourism Board as the Senior Product Development and Research Officer, but currently I'm sitting in for the Quality Assurance Manager, Samora, who is not around and who was unable, fortunately he could not. So, prelude.
Mm-hmm. Well, good to have you here, Sophie. So it looks like your line is breaking a bit here and there. So well, let's just give it a go. But there might be a chance that that we won't be able to hear you. So then we would have to come up with a different solution. But maybe Sophie, you can just explain a little bit what you believe that any tourism company in Uganda needs to have in place when it comes to quality assurance. What are the challenges that they have to overcome, and also what role can UTB play in this? And also on the topic of licensing, I know that UTB is implementing all kinds of efforts to make sure that quality assurance is becoming a more important or topic, or is placed higher on the agenda of tourism businesses in Uganda. So can you maybe elaborate a little bit on this? Thank you. And you're muted.
Thank you. I've changed line. I don't know if it's now clearer or it's the same.
Seems like it. Yeah. Seems to be better.
It's clearer.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Maybe let me start from the basics. My name is Sophie Baliijuka Kayongo. I work with the Uganda Tourism Board as the Senior Product Development and Research Officer. But currently I'm sitting in for the Quality Assurance Manager, Mr. Samora Semakula, who is unable to join onto this call. And I'll just start with a brief from the Uganda Tourism Board. For those that are on the call that may not know about the Uganda Tourism Board is a government entity. It has a number of mandates, but amongst which the core ones are to market Uganda as a preferred tourism destination to all travelers. Yeah. Then 2, we are mandated to regulate the sector, the tourism sector, as long as anyone is carrying out a tourism business, be it a restaurant, be it a hotel, be it a tour company, be it your guide, as long as it's tourism business, Uganda Tourism Board is the regulator for the sector. That means it registers, it licenses, it inspects, it grades all tourism businesses in the country. Also, Uganda Tourism Board monitors standards in the sector, because as a board, we are supposed to ensure that our destination is competitive, and once placed on the global radar, it can be ranked as a competitive, sustainable destination. So as a board, it's our mandate to monitor that these standards that are kept by all tourism enterprises in the country are competitive if put on the global scale. But also we are mandated to promote tourism investment in the country, and also support the development and refurbishment of tourism products in the country. So among so many other things, that's what the Uganda Tourism Board does. So today I'll just focus on the area of quality assurance. Under the quality assurance function of the board, Uganda Tourism Board maintains a register of all tourism enterprises in the country. So we have a register of the tour guides that we have in the country. We also have a register of all the tour and travel companies we have. Then accommodation facilities, restaurants. So we maintain that register as enterprises into a system where they are licensed and legally operating in the sector. By licensing and legally, we want to make sure that whatever enterprise that is operating in the tourism space meets the minimum required standards. That if someone came to your company and they find that Uganda Tourism Board registered and licensed you to operate, they assure that the minimum international standards that are required for anyone to operate such a company are maintained. Registration currently is free. Yeah, you just go, it's actually an e-registration. You just go to the UTB website, which is www.utb.window, which has self-registration. So you can register depending on the company type that you have. Is it a tour company? Is it a travel company? Is it an accommodation facility? Are you a tour guide? And once you select that, you will fill in the details, and once the registration is complete, the team is able to see your registration number for a few other aspects that have to be seen to confirm that they're actually there, and then you are licensed to operate fully in the sector. This is a legal requirement as per the laws of Uganda. As such, if you do not do it, you can be, worst case scenario, you can be imprisoned, or you can be told to pay up to 960,000 for you to operate without a license from the Uganda Tourism Board. But before looking at the stick element of complying to the Uganda Tourism Board quality assurance licensing, there are so many other benefits that you as a business owner benefits from being licensed by the board. One, you're recognized by government that you're actually operating in tourism. That means in case of any eventuality, UTB has you in its register that this is a licensed business facility and can confidently recommend you for any business. As government, we host a number of conferences, and when their conference delegates would want to do tours, we'll only recommend those companies that are licensed, because we can put our hand for them, like we license them and we assure they can handle and manage clients. So that means on that business line, if you're not licensed, you'll miss out. Also, too, clients are getting aware of what's going on. The world is no longer a safe space. There's a lot of fraud. The internet is a place of lies. So people do not know what to trust, but they would still trust government. So if you are actually licensed by UTB, which is a government agency, a client has some comfort.
Sorry, your line is breaking at the moment.
In case of anything, I can actually report this company to government, and government can put this company again, or it's not clear.
Yes, I think so. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so the second advantage that is got is the clients have confidence that since you're legally operating and recognized by the government, they have some surety that in case of any eventuality, you can come and complain. But also you're the business operator. If you have an issue with a client, that means you also have comfort to come and complain to government that I've actually had a client, maybe they were fraud or they were doing money laundering or whatever issues that were going on as you are operating with this client, because you're a legal entity. So you're able to actually have your issues resolved legally or with government. You have an open door because we know you. Also, Uganda Tourism Board flags a number of businesses for, like on the websites, on its register. Most people who want to travel and they are not sure about destinations, they'll actually check the website to find out, is this tour company registered and licensed by the board? Is this hotel group when they make their decision? Also, it helps you easily meet consumer expectations. When tourists come to the hotel and probably they book you through booking.com or TripAdvisor, TripAdvisor will give you a grade, which could be a 4-star, or 5, or 3, or 2. But over time, we've realized these star ratings by these online OTAs are sometimes not right. What is a 4-star in my opinion is not a 4-star in Lexi's opinion. Neither is it a 4-star in David's opinion. I might maybe have moved from my village in Chegegwa and I have never seen maybe a big space, and now I reach this hotel and it's a big space with a big pool. I don't look at anything else and I give it a 5-star. Yet actually the service was not good, or the air was actually not the best that it could have. And now someone comes to that hotel with my recommendation, not knowing my test was different. But when they're gonna 5-star,
or your line is
anyone is
breaking
sure
again.
that the stand where I used it at 5-star, even if I
so I'm sorry, Sophie, but it looks like your line is breaking a bit too much. So I maybe yes, yeah. Let's try it again, and maybe also in the meantime, I would like to ask you a question. So I think to me it sounds like an enormous task of also doing quality control of checking whether every tourism company is also is actually also delivering up to its promise from how they have registered. How is you to be going about this task of really finding out that what is happening in practice aligns with what they've promised online?
Okay, thank you, Lex. So what usually happens, because you see Uganda Tourism Board has only one headquarter, but tourism businesses are everywhere in the country. So we've had working partnerships with the tourism officers and the tourism district health inspectors. So they help us actually keep on ground of, no, this service went down, it's no longer a 5-star, it's now a 2-star, because also these ratings are periodical. Yeah, you'll be a 5-star, but in the next 2 years, we are supposed to come and review. Are you still a 5-star? Are you still a 4? Have you improved? Is there a room for improvement, or this is the best you can be at? So that we have done in partnership with with the local government, mainly through the tourism officers and the district health inspectors, such that we are sure once we know Lex as a tour company can handle 50 clients in a go, we are sure, and that anyone who books you with their 50 clients is safe and has confirmation from the board that Lex Tourism Company can actually host and handle 50 tour companies. And also because of the internet, it's a must that any registered facility by UTB must have a website. Because that's when you can easily keep in touch with your clients and know, because most people actually book their travel over the internet. They'll first search the internet before they actually make up their minds to travel. And the world is now a global village. It's going so it's very paramount that even our private sector gets a website. So it's important those that don't have should actually reach out to David and look out for actually a website, because once you don't have it, we actually can't register you. It is a must have. And we shall even confirm whether it's actually operational. When was it last updated? And sometimes the website can even have information that you might never get if you visit an office. Clients give reviews. Maybe 20 clients have reviewed you as a very good, you're very professional, you keep time. I may not know your timeliness when I visit your office, because I'll tell you I'm coming at 9 and you'll try your best to be there. I'll not know that actually with clients, you tell them 9 and you show up at 10. But those reviews can tell that actually this person is prompt, they keep their promise. Yeah, that makes it easier. But also you cannot book Uganda Wildlife Authority permits if you're not a licensed tour company. So also that helps us with the checks, that if someone wants to book clients into the country to go and tour a product, UA will first ask you for the license. Once you don't have it, they'll still first refer you back to UTB. So we'll go back into the same process of confirming that you meet the standards and you can be able to handle clients once they come into the country.
Thanks, Sophie. There's a comment in the chat of someone saying that that there were some complaints with system breakdowns of this registration system. Do you also often experience this, and what is being done to make sure that this is reduced?
Yes, that is true. We often do get complaints from even the people who are trying to register license about the system being on and off. As Uganda Tourism Board, because we are a government agency, we are on the same. We are run by the NITA, that is the National IT Agency for the country. It's the one that manages all government portals. And because it's managing a number of them and on the same server, it, I think, creates a clog, and then it's slow, either off. So we've been in very good communication with the NITA team to find out if they can actually change our line to get off the main government line, because this is a really service website that needs to work 24/7. Because by the time someone is opening it, they are looking for a service that is prompt. And that is something they're also doing with us, such they put all UTB websites, the one for Poate, the one for Explore Uganda, the one for Uganda Tourism Board, the corporate page, which has the quality assurance registration procedures, are put on a different line so that they are quick and fast, and they are prompt, and they have fewer glitches, if any. That's a conversation we are having with NITA, and they're also trying to resolve it. Yes, we know those glitches quite happen, but even when they happen, we are always available to help, and with the manual other ways of registering, the manual way, we send you the forms, you fill them in, send them back, we load them, and you get a registration number. Yes.
Oh, great. Now it's good to hear that at least efforts are being made to improve this. So that's great. Another question I had was concerning the requirements that tourism activity providers need to have. Like sometimes, so to be honest, I'm not too much familiar with the system myself. So it could be that my question is a bit irrelevant, but sometimes I feel that, especially in the field of adventure tourism, which is a growing type of subsector within tourism, but it's not, let's say, the main type of tourism. Sometimes you find that that they are also sort of consider to follow the same procedures as all the other tourism companies. So, for example, maybe they let's say a cycling company is judged by whether they have a safari vehicle or not. Like, again, this is just an example, and I don't know if it's relevant, but so sometimes I wonder, like, are the different categories that are used to assess the quality of a tourism company, are those categories wide enough, and are there enough subcategories that can be placed? Because again, like, let's say a bicycle company would probably have quite a different way of operating than, let's say, a safari tour operator. Do you recognize this?
Yes, we actually do, Lex, completely. We even recognize people starting out, that when I'm starting out this year, I'm not expected to have a safari vehicle unless really I had saved a buffer of money, and then I'm starting out big. But most people start small and grow. It's okay not to have even a guide. like a hired guide as a company, as a tour company. It's also okay not to have a safari vehicle, but we also want to find out when you get clients, how do you move them? That yes, I hire. Who do you hire from? Do you have a working partnership with, say, Matoke Tours? If Matoke Tours has safari companies and the ones that you use, you have a working partnership with them that they are aware of, that Sophie is starting out, and for her support, she picks guides from us. That we shall accept that, yes, you actually have guides. That, yes, you don't have one who is full-time employed, but you have either a working partnership with USAGA, which is the association, to provide guides for you when you need them, or with another tour company that could have maybe a bigger stock of them that they can give you once you need them. That we allow, because we understand people don't start the same way, and different companies require different approaches. If you're particularly a biking company that you don't even need to, maybe clients move themselves to you, and all you provide is bikes and all, that's the direction we shall take. And even when we flag you, and if someone wants to use you, we shall still tell them that yes, whereas Lake Safaris is very good, they are better with biking, because they are ideally not a typical safari company. They are into the adventure kind that has biking. So if you're not a biker, you might need to ask deeper questions if he's going to either subcontract a few of the items of your trip. But if this is what you want to have for your trip in Uganda, they are literally a good deal for you. That's the whole thing. We try to make it as approachable as possible, because we know the tourism industry is vast.
Seems like your line is broken now again. Yeah, I don't know if you can still hear me, but thank you so much, Sophie, for sharing your insights. If there's any questions to Sophie still, please use the chat, and we'll make sure she'll look at them. But also for the sake of time, I suggest that we move to the next presentation, which is actually done by Richard Okuti of Asili FORTUNE. Over the past few years, I've also worked with Richard a number of times, and I invited him to especially focus on how businesses can collaborate with other businesses and other organizations, government organizations, associations, and explain a little bit how you can reach your goals by working together. So, Richard, thank you so much for joining us today. And yeah, please introduce yourself. And I know you have quite a few slides, so just let me know when you want me to go to the next slides, please. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you very much, Alex. I hope I'm very audible.
Yes, you are.
Yeah, wonderful. I'm sitting in Ugnda complex near the Innovation Village, and there is a church across the road that has speakers mounted on the fence, and it's really loud. So I'm hoping this sound is not reaching us. Yeah, and
so
if
far
it gets more,
okay.
If it gets louder, just let me know. But so far, I think we are good to go. So my name is Richard Okuti, and I'm the founder of Asili FORTUNE. In simple terms, Asili FORTUNE is really a trade facilitator, and we focus more on export development. And we're also inspired very much by the advancement in technology. So we use technology a lot to develop export initiatives, and we target mostly agriculture, IT and IT-enabled sectors, and tourism. And more interestingly, for tourism, I'm also coordinating the CBI Transforming Uganda Tourism projects together with other colleagues at iOpen Works, and Lex also supported us in one or two aspects of this project. So that is a bit about me. And yeah, so we can move to the next slide. And I just wanted to talk about this presentation. It's really looking more towards the tour operator as the core person. And this is also because we realize that the tour operator is very, very key in connecting with the buyer or the potential customer, but also with the tour operators in other countries that they can partner with. So the tour operator is our focal person. And as you can see, the objective of this presentation is really to understand collaboration from a business perspective, to underscore the importance, and then look at potential areas of collaboration and other ingredients into good collaboration. So we can move on to the next slide. In this one, I just wanted to take us back a bit, because, but I know what do they say? They say singing to the choir. Many of you already know this value chain, probably a lot more deeply than I know. But why I wanted to bring this value chain, you realize as a person who mobilizes, closes deals for tours and organizes tours, that you end up interacting with all these areas down the value chain. And so it becomes important for you to look at those aspects as well and see that they are actually measuring up to the promise that you have made to the buyer or to the tourist. Imagine you make a promise that you know it's going to be all good downstream, and then right from the car that the person is using, it's a problem, the hotel is a problem, the food is a problem, the activities are not well aligned, they are not interesting, and so forth, and you know, all those other services. Then you see also the support system where the roads may be bad, the whole system. Then your promise will have been a failure. So indeed, I think as the person in the front line, the salesman for the group, this is just an important overview that I wanted to share. We can move on. So again, of course, when we go into such a topic, we want to contextualize and also look at the definition a bit. And so from the various definitions I saw, I prefer to build my own, which is saying that business collaboration is the initiative taken to work together towards a positive result, optimizing resources to create value, solve problems, and share and achieve shared outcomes. That means that, of course, one of the key considerations is that your goals and objectives with whoever you're collaborating with are actually similar or the same. That you actually have, each of you has something to bring on the table, yeah? And that each one has to bring an aspect of either a resource or an activity to the table to empower the collaboration. That you're able to openly communicate to each other and willing to share and absorb risk. Not that when the risk occurs, then one is saying, oh, that was your idea, so me, I'm out of it, and you know, you die alone in your movie, like many Ugandans would like to say. Yeah, and of course, flexibility, agreeability, these are key important considerations. As we move on, Lex, to the next one. Yeah, so again, this is also building up the case for collaboration. Why is it really important? And you realize that as small businesses, that most of our businesses are in Uganda, sometimes you are trying to do a bit of everything. So sometimes you may want to release other aspects to other people to do, so that you focus on your core area or the key vision that you want to achieve. And it also helps, of course, in collective problem solving, that you're not really, you know, tasking yourself to solve everything, but you're bringing your team together and also other teams to work towards a solution. And optimizing resources, instead of each one doing their small part, and later on you'll see how working jointly to transport, for instance, tourists of different operators can actually help solve and make the common resource used cheaper and less carbon emissions and less, and tending towards sustainability. You also end up saving time and you get more people engaged, and generally the quality of work is improved. And I just summarized by saying access to a wider talent pool makes it easier for teams, regardless of organization size, to find specific talent and close talent gaps. Yeah, even if it's only short term, because working together sometimes gives you access to a talent that you cannot afford on your own. So the next slide, still why collaboration is important. We also see that together we can generate issues that are common to us, that we can now present, for instance, to our government and discuss with them how these issues can be solved, rather than each and every one of us running. For instance, imagine you run alone all the way to the president to present an issue. It may just fly, and no one may, get to, learn more about it. But if you together and it's a group effort, then the issue is addressed and probably solved. You can also easily bargain for incentives, and you say this is a common problem to all of us, and we need maybe incentives. Maybe we need some tax holidays, a very difficult one. But you can also collectively, bargain for better access to money and so forth. Recently, we had an European Union organized meeting, and the access to money issue came up. It was a very big issue. And being together in the room made it easier for the companies in the room to say, we are all faced with this problem, and we need to discuss and see how this money can more easily get released to us. And of course, in destination promotion, you pull resources together, you enrich vista flows to various places. For instance, when you're working together, let's say adventure tourism, culture, and maybe even sites. You could, for instance, have one person doing a cultural visit for Ewafe, for example, which is somewhere in Uganda, to have a nice cultural experience of the Baganda culture, to eat food and see how it's prepared in Uganda. Then, proceed to Karamoja, but stop around CP to see the falls, take some pictures, maybe have a coffee, which coffee again is produced around the Elgon, which is, the aroma of the coffee. So you're bringing even the aspect of, community empowerment, and then you continue to Karamoja. And these are different people working together to make this visitor flow more enriched, more valuable, so the tourists can actually spend more exciting time around, rather than one person trying to put all this together, because the demand on resources is very, very high. But also you can jointly solve infrastructure problems, accommodation problems, access to technical and sometimes financial partners, development partners like CBI. You can negotiate and, get an ear of CBI, but alone you can't do this. And, explore Uganda, for instance, jointly promote this brand. So these are all aspects that are very important, that arguments that support us towards collaboration. Yeah, I put together some actors that I knew that we need to look at. This is in the bigger scheme of things, but this is also, at country level. But we also can go and speak about peer-to-peer collaboration, where I'll spend a bit more time. Again, while collaboration is good, it can also be challenging. And we can first of all look at how the big guys have become big through collaboration. If you realize most big entities globally are usually partnerships, several people shareholding into something, several companies coming together. Look at the example of the Star Alliance for airlines. They do collective marketing, brand positioning, talent exchange, and manufacturing. Sometimes even they procure together. Things like accommodation. Someone spoke about Airbnb, how, you know, the model is really good. This is a collaborative issue. Most houses are owned by different people. Marriott manages several hotels that are owned by different people. Transport hauling as well. Uber is, someone mentioned Uber, Safecar, and all these different owners coming together to do one thing and filling the gaps. So this is just, again, building on the argument for collaboration. Let's go on. Yeah, but of course, it's a challenge. You know, the history, for instance, sometimes our history in Uganda, our cultures and attitudes towards collaboration can also influence our ability to collaborate. For instance, building trust is not a very easy thing. People are used to running their small entities, small family businesses, and now you're telling them to open up, you know. Sometimes the business is struggling and you want it to open up, which is very difficult. Such situations sometimes deter tourism businesses like yours from coming together. Someone has tax obligations which have been pending for some years. They're scared of sharing this problem and so forth. Scarcity of resources and competition also creates a tendency to hide, you know, because you think that when you open up, maybe someone is going to take advantage of your resources, or also learn how you do it and then go back and beat you to the game. Rigid hierarchies and, you know, for instance, the idea of respecting elders, not talking back to someone, not criticizing. Sometimes positive criticism is not really well accepted in our community. So people prefer to go silent and stay in their silos. And then you find that we are not coming out to do bigger things together. So I talked about avoidance, frowning upon criticism, and so forth. So these are really challenges that, and you know, this topic is interesting because these are things you see every day, and it's not rocket science, but somehow you find that this is what is happening to us in our individual places. Maybe we can move on. Yeah. I'll quickly browse over the models. We have what we call the public-private collaborations. And this one, I'll focus on an example of the convention center in Munyonyo. You all know that it's being finalized, but you can see government has come together with the private sector. And this is really at the upper level, you know, the big types of collaboration we can talk about. Working on transport and so forth and other services. We can move on to another model, which is on the next page. Yeah, here I shared about benefits, but yes, let's stick to this value chain collaboration as well. And why I brought this value chain back again, we are now trying to integrate sustainability in whatever we do. So how best do we get sustainability principles to work across the entire value chain? You're a tour operator, you've gone and sold to either your colleague tour operator in Europe that, you know, we are observing sustainability, or even to the buyer directly. But is the transport provider aware, the local transport provider? Is the hotel and the lodge aware? Are they doing this? Is the food being packaged well in good materials and so forth? And all the activities, are they adhering to some of the principles that have convinced you to make your client, the tourist, come into the country? So value chain collaboration is very important because you need to check down the chain and see that what you're promising is actually going to be delivered. And you can only do this by working down the chain. For instance, if you promised that you're going to, again, maybe this time we talk about the Western route, you know, Africa Panthera, you have promised that we are going to go into an eco-friendly lodge where they use, you know, materials that can be recycled. They have abandoned the use of plastic. They work with the community to do ABCD. and they probably respect the employees and they pay them a good wage and all these things. And then your tourist comes and immediately on the way you're throwing plastics out of the tourist vehicle. When you reach there, you're bombarded with the, you know, takeaway food packed in the materials that are also, you know, not bio-friendly. You get to the hotel, water is running, AC is running, everything is running like it's infinite, it's in abundance and so forth. This would have been a disadvantage, you know, to the customer that had registered that promise in their mind. They begin to see all these things and they say, oh dear, this was not what I was expecting. So very important to look at this as well. We can go to the next one. Another important one is, and this we've really attempted very much to do, is joining and empowering business associations or creating clusters where you bring together your resources. You can work together to jointly procure services. You can jointly build your capacity so that everyone, and this also applies to the value chain, when you're all building your capacity, for instance, on the subject of sustainability. So everyone knows and they are going to implement in their respective points of contact, the touch points with the tourists. And so when they're able to learn together, they're able to implement at different points. For instance, Ewafe will do the key things they have to do. The transporter will do what they have to do. In CP, they'll do what they have to do. In Karamoja, with the bikers, they'll do what they have to do. And with the culture, with the community, they'll do what they have to do. Because you've all come from the same source of knowledge and you've jointly upgraded your capacity in this area. In the case of country promotion, you can also speak one voice. You all know that you're working with UTB that has positioned this brand called Explore Uganda. So you've taken this to your associations like Otto, like Tugata, like Estoa, you know, like Ugasa and so forth, Uto, and you're all speaking Explore Uganda, Uganda in diversity. These are the different products. So that someone even does not know whether you are tour operator X or you are UTB or you Auto, because you have jointly worked out how to present yourselves. Access to international partners and linkages also very easy when you collaborate. I talked already about sustainability practices. The opportunities for networking are also immense, and you're therefore able to improve your access to different aspects of being able to grow, like finance and markets in general. Yeah. And here is where I think it becomes even more important and more exciting for the team here today, where you really need to see how you can work with each other. Remember, we have to overcome our stereotypes and our cultural, you know, things like positive criticism. We need to learn how to be, you know, able to criticize each other. We need to learn how to be able to share resources. We need to learn how to build trust and position ourselves in the truthful way that we are, you know. I mean, position ourselves truly so that we can collaborate well. Remember, when you collaborate with a lie, you're going to end up with a lie. So international partnerships, of course, are very important. Most of you who selling to tourists from Europe normally sell to tour operators in Europe and tell them this is what we have on offer. And so you have to be truthful to that tour operator, because that tour operator is depending on your information to attract the tourists to sign up with them so that they can transfer them to Uganda. So you need to collaborate with a lot of truthfulness and openness and, you know, be able to share the right information. Organizing joint tour packages and also extending the visitor flow, time, and activities so that they can spend more, stay longer in the country, and experience a diversity of things. So, and this means that each of you in the visitor flow can pick. This time, maybe we're saying we're taking a Ntanda from Mityana to do the cultural aspects. We are going to Fort Portal and working with the Kingdom of the Toro to give us entertainment, cultural entertainment, like Ngabuza Toro, and then another company to take us to the mountains as part of the adventure part of it, or also sightseeing and nature walks, and then another group to take us to Queen Elizabeth. And these working parts can come together, these companies can come together. You have one communication, you have one quotation, you have one itinerary, and because the tourist does not have to know that you're all working together. The tourist has to just go through all this experience seamlessly. And this is where, you know, each of you makes more and the country benefits in a bigger way. You can also offer complementary services to each other and say, okay, while we're at location this, so and so you're good at providing food. So you'll do the culinary part. And you outsource that to that person, and the tourist does not have to know. Rather than you with your meager resources trying to do everything. You're organizing the trip, you're trying to do the food, you're trying to do, sometimes you have the accommodation, so it's okay, but you're trying to do the nature walks, you're trying to do the adventures, you're trying to do, so it becomes difficult. So communication materials, well documented in such a way that even the tourist has no idea how many people are involved, but you're collaborating to deliver. You can also optimize technology so that you work more efficiently. Use one booking tool. Why should each of you build their own booking tool, for instance? Use one booking tool and it works. Use one mobile app and it works for all of you. The cost of acquisition will be lower and the learning curve will also be easier and so forth. Again, sustainability practice can be incorporated here. So I hope I am touching those aspects that are, you know, close to your hearts, because sometimes when you talk for long and you're going on and on, you might think that you're saying a lot of nice things, but you're not touching. But let's wait and see what in the discussion how it goes. So I'll go to the next slide. Oh yes, I've already reached here. I think I went a bit too fast. I hope I was not too fast for everyone, but I wanted to say in summary that by harnessing the opportunity of collaboration, tour operators will strengthen their market position and will be able to offer more diverse and competitive packages for their clients or customers. Clients in terms of the tour operators that you work with in other countries and the actual customers, the tourists themselves. So the tour operator and other value chain actors will be able to communicate one powerful value proposition because of having worked together, and be able to create mutually beneficial environment within which the sector can effectively contribute to sustainable development. And this is what I wanted to say in summary. And I think that's about it from me. There might be one more slide there showing general benefits, but you know, they're just general benefits. And Mr. Gonahasa has talked about it. UTB also talked about it, and we have shared about it as well. So I will come and open discussion, and you know, I can share and elaborate on some points if they were not clearer. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much, Richard, for this presentation. I really enjoyed it. So to everyone that is here, in case there's any questions to Richard regarding the content of his presentation, please use the chat and I will read it out. So Richard, already a question from me personally is sometimes it is difficult for tourism companies to overcome the idea of competition. Like they look at each other as if they are competitors, and well, maybe in some aspects they are, because they are both trying to attract the same client. But then on the other hand, in some cases they should be collaborating and jointly building the destination, for example. What can tourism companies do to overcome this idea of competition only?
Yes, that is indeed always a very tough dilemma, and in many cases, it's really difficult to draw the line between what we call competitive collaboration and competition. And it's normally really up to the individual tour operator to clearly define what the it's called the unique selling point. And that unique selling point for that tour operator is something they have to guard very, very much and keep it close to the chest. But many of the activities within a business are normally easy to see, even if you didn't share. And I'll give an example. For instance, if you have cars which are not so good and someone has better cars, it's normally easier to see that the other cars are better than what you have. And I don't know if this is a good example, but I'm trying to say that the aspects which are visible and easy to see are normally common to many businesses. And so those aspects which are common to different businesses are the aspects that I believe you can cooperate in. For instance, if tour guides are being outsourced from Uganda, and we all know the quality of those tour guides, instead of each of us independently trying to hide and source those tour guides secretly, we can say we are going to source the tour guides who will work for all of us across the board from Uganda. And that is an open agreement. But it's always difficult to keep your unique selling position away from others, because people are always doing intelligence, and then also competition is not necessarily bad, because you compete and you try to do intelligence on each other, but it also helps you to build each other when you find out more about each other. So sometimes it's okay to let go and say, this is my core area and this is my focus, and I'll collaborate with you because I noticed that your core area is B and my core area is A. So then B, if they are mature enough, will not try to do what A does, and A will not try to do what B does. But these are things that we have to grow within our ecosystem, and it's difficult.
Yeah.
But if anyone else wants to share a useful example in that area, you're also welcome.
Thanks, Richard. So for the sake of time, let's look at one of the questions that was raised in the chat, and afterwards we will close off. But I'm happy that you shared your contact information also on this very slide. So first of all, Ibrahim was asking, will the slides be shared? Yes, Ibrahim, that's possible. If you just drop your email in the chat, then I will personally ensure that you receive all the slides of this of the presentation of today. But also please remember that we're also sharing the recording of this session. And that will just be placed on YouTube, so we can do so. But then there was a question from Jared, is saying, apart from tour companies, there are regional cluster bodies trying to promote travel to their respective parts of the country. What would collaboration look like for them? So yeah, I think that's a good question. I do know that, I mean, Uganda is incredibly diverse, and in different regions, different organizations are collaborating. So companies as well as local government and local governing bodies. So, for example, there's a tourism cluster here, there's a tourism cluster there. So then the question is, how should these type of organizations work together in jointly promoting that specific region? I hope that that I summarized the question well. Richard, do you have any points on that?
Yes, and this is interesting. I think because I was presenting, I might have missed something interesting, and I'm happy it comes in this question. We also have what we call subnational destinations, which can emerge due to specific interesting products that can be built in those destinations. And destination development and destination management can be very difficult for individual tour operators. And sometimes to develop products within a cluster or within a region, one has to team up with, for instance, the product may even need some land where you use the land to make sure that the product is visible or something. So you need the local government. So you find that you can bring the local government on board because the local government may have access to some government resources like land, which they can provide. And as a cluster in the region, you can work together and brainstorm on how you can develop a product for that region or products for that region. And this is one way that you can effectively collaborate, because you all know that at the end of the day, if this product is well developed and promoted, then there's going to be an increase of visitor flows into the region, which is revenue for the local government. It's also revenue for the individual tour operators and their cluster. So knowing that that benefit is there, you could collaborate in that way. And, every stakeholder brings something to the table. Also, you can see, for instance, East Africa has started talking to each other. The countries in East Africa started talking to each other because they want to enrich the various visitor flows. Why should tourists come, for instance, to Mombasa and remain there? They could go all the way to Uganda and go all the way to the gorillas. But while they're on their way to the gorillas, other, products could be developed along that route. And sometimes one tour operator may not be able to work alone. So clustering is very useful because then you work together. Bringing in the local government is very useful because they have the ultimate resource and they're in charge of the destination. So these are some ways in which teams can work together, develop products, promote them together, and then eventually the benefit will trickle down to the individual tour operators and also the local government in that area.
Yeah, thanks, Richard. I also had a few additions to that myself as well.
Yes, please.
So one example. So Jared, when you asked this question, I don't know whether you had a specific region in mind, but I do think this is relevant to any sub-region in Uganda. But for me, one of the things I always had to think of is how northern Uganda, and then I'm talking of, for example, the Acholi region and West Nile, for example, have really tremendous adventure tourism and cultural tourism potential. And but they are not on, let's say, the mainstream tourism routes in Uganda, because that is mostly focusing on western and southwestern Uganda. But I do think that also northern Uganda has so much tourism potential, and there could be so many different types of products developed in those regions, and often those products are already there. Like there are already good initiatives, but then the challenge is how to make sure that you as a region become more visible for visitors. How do you attract visitors? And I think that one good example of how this is being done is what is happening in Karamoja. I do know that in Karamoja, this whole narrative is changing of well, there used to be a time that you had the saying like Uganda you cannot wait for Karamoja to develop. Nowadays, I think Karamoja cannot wait for Uganda to develop anymore. Like things are changing so fast, but still, and also there's the Karamoja is attracting more and more visitors that were already going towards Kidepo, but now there's more and more activities happening in other parts of Karamoja as well. And I think one of the ways why, one of the reasons why they were able to do this is by also collaborative branding, and also coming up with content together that shows the potential of tourism in that region. And personally, I always feel like that regions like West Nile or Acholi or Lango or Teso, they could follow that same trajectory if the different tourism companies, as well as the district officers and different organizations in those regions, come together in collaborate when it comes to content creation, and make sure that that you have a video that really looks good, or have a good website that showcases all the different activities in that region. So for me personally, that would be the most important learning, and I don't know if that is useful to you.
Yes, I think just you sparked a very interesting something that can spiral into a longer discussion. But I just wanted to say something small also, that actually I'm also from West Nile, and I always have this joke with McTyne that we need to replicate what has transformed Karamoja in our tourism context in West Nile, and see how it works. And I know that Gerald is from West Nile as well. I've not been very much in touch with him for quite a number of years, but I'm happy to see him here, and I'm happy that he's asking these questions. I think he's cooking something.
Cool. No, I'm looking forward to see the results of that. So Richard, thank you so much for your presentation. We really appreciated it. So to everyone, if you want to reach out to Richard, you can find the contacts on this slide. So we're coming to a close of this webinar, but there's just one thing that I still would like to mention, and that is that next week we're finally going to launch the adventure tourism training modules that we're developing. So after I'm closing off this meeting, I'm going to finalize on all those modules. So these are training modules that you can just download for free, that will help you to train others in adventure tourism skills. So how to be an adventure tourism guide, how to do to lead cycling tours, how to do hiking tours, how to develop cultural tourism activities. And all these modules are just introductions, so they are not full courses whatsoever. They're just introductions into these topics. But we are currently developing, and on Tuesday next week, so that's I think it's the 19th, is when we're going to launch them officially. And then we will place them on the websites of Adventure Tourism Uganda, which is adventuretourismug.com, as well as ukarimuacademy.org. And again, they're completely open and free and accessible to anyone. So in case you're interested, please make use of it. So this was the last webinar of a series of 5 webinars. I really appreciated all of you for being part of it. Thank you so much for doing this with us. If there's anybody that you feel would be interested in watching this recording or any of the other recordings back, please share it with them, because I mean, for us, the more people see it and the more people benefit from it, the better. So please share it with anyone. Thank you so much, and I wish you a lovely rest of your day.
Thank you. Bye-bye.